week 4 of the fantasy baseball season, and here's a few hitters I'd look to drop this week. The first guy, Jonathan Villar of the Chicago Cubs. I mentioned Villar a few weeks ago as a good ad, but right now he's just not getting the job done for the Cubs here. And I know he has good versatility qualifying at second, third, and short. But right now, no home runs, 8 RBIs, a stolen base, a 283 average, a 322 on base, and 8 runs scored. So on the surface, not bad numbers batting average-wise here. But the last couple weeks, he's batting 182 with 10 strikeouts and 33 at-bats. So VR last season, he showed some power with the New York Mets, 18 home runs, but he don't even have a homer so far this season. And he's not even playing every day anymore for the Cubs, so there's no need for him to be sitting on your roster. And fantasy owners have dropped him in 8% of leagues. The last few games here for VR: April 24th versus Pittsburgh, 1-for-4. April 26th at Atlanta, 0-for-1. April 27th, he was benched. April 28th at Atlanta, 0-for-4. April 29th at Milwaukee, 0-for-4. April 30th, May 1st, he sat those ball games out as well, so he's not getting consistent playing time. And right now, if he's not going to play, there's no point of him being on your team. And the power numbers haven't been there as well for VR, just batting average. So I would drop him this week. The next guy, Jurickson Profar of the San Diego Padres. So he came out of the gates hot, was Profar, but he's been struggling over the last few weeks here. And he's a guy with good versatility as well, first, second, and outfield. But on the season, 5 home runs, 15 RBIs, a stolen base, 12 runs scored, a 176 average, and a 303 on base. So the only improvement he's really found this offseason here was showing more power, already with more home runs this season than last season, and almost 300 less at-bats here for Profar. But last season, he only hit 227, and so far here, 176 for him. And in the last couple weeks, 143 as well. So right now, he's pretty much a home run or an out at this point here, is Profar. And he's another guy with not a good track record of showing power. So right now, he has been dropped in 6% of fantasy leagues, and I would drop him as well. The last few games for him: April 26th at the Reds, 1-for-5 with a run and a rib. April 27th at the Reds, 1-for-3, a homer, 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored. April 28th at the Reds, 0-for-5. April 29th at the Pirates, 0-for-4. April 30th at the Pirates, 0-for-4. And May 1st at the Pirates, 0-for-4. So right here, 17 slump here is Profar. And his batting average is way below the Mendoza line. And right now, if you could find better options on your waiver wire, I would drop him. Because even if he starts hitting a little bit, his ceiling's only about 225, 230 range when it's all said and done this season. The next guy is Joey Gallo of the New York Yankees. So Joey Gallo, I have him in a few leagues, very frustrating. And I pulled the trigger on him and dropped him in one here. Because I know he's still got potential 35, 40 home run power, but the power just hasn't been there as well so far. Now he's banged up as well with a groin injury on the season here for Gallo. 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a 180 average, 275 on base in 61 at-bats. So Gallo, he's not hitting the ball well. The injury's playing a factor, but like I mentioned, in that short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium, this guy could get things going in a hurry, but right now, it's just not worth it, in my opinion, especially the one league I dropped him in. I'm already struggling with batters not hitting with Adam Duvall, Ozzie Albies, Rhys Hoskins. I got all those guys low batting average and not hitting, and Gallo is the odd man out. But anyway, the last few games for him: April 23rd versus Cleveland, 1-for-3 with a run. April 24th versus Cleveland, 1-for-4 with a rib. April 26th versus Baltimore, 1-for-4, a homer in that one. April 27th versus Baltimore, 1-for-4 with a homer. April 28th versus Baltimore, 0-for-3 with a run. April 29th at Kansas City, he didn't play in that one. And April 30th at Kansas City, 2-for-2. So Gallo, maybe he was starting to break out of things a little bit, but with the injury and other roster moves you got to make on your team sometimes, he's an odd man out. No doubt about it, though. You got to keep an eye on him because this guy, like I mentioned, could get hot with the home run ball at any time and carry your team for a couple weeks in that category. But right now, while things aren't going right for Gallo, I would drop him, but definitely keep an eye on him. And if someone else gets him and grabs him, it is what it is. Sometimes that's just part of fantasy baseball where it's a numbers game and you got to get rid of a guy sometimes you don't want to. And that's what I had to do with Gallo, but he's definitely not producing. So right here, I dropped him this week, and I would drop him as well. The next guy, Adalberto Mondesi of the Kansas City Royals. So a few seasons ago, Mondesi had a great year, but the last 2 years now, the injuries have definitely played a factor, and it looks like he's going to be done for this season as well. So right here, torn ACL for Mondesi, and we know he's a good run-scoring guy and a stolen base guy, but this season he was off to a bad start anyway. No home runs, 3 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 3 runs scored, a 140 average and a 204 on base, and now with the diagnosed torn ACL on Thursday, hold on to him in regular leagues and obviously even keeper leagues. The last 2 seasons have been a blur, and he's going to miss all of this season, but somehow he's still owned in 56% of fantasy leagues, which I don't agree with here for Mondesi. So now with the torn ACL, he's going to be out for the year, and it's another bad blow for Mondesi owners and fantasy owners, obviously, who expected a nice bounce-back year for him after last season getting injured. So going into next season, he's a guy I'm probably going to stay away from because now he's injured the last couple seasons, and he had one good year that looks like, to me, it was a fluke. So he's an easy drop this week. And the 5th and final hitter I look to drop this week, Thairo Estrada of the San Francisco Giants. So Estrada, he got off to a hot start early in the season, but now his numbers are dropping down on the season. 2 home runs, 14 RBIs, 15 runs scored, 3 stolen bases, a 235 average, and a 276 on base. So he's a guy that really don't draw walks. I know he's got great versatility, second short and outfield, but the good thing I'll give him is he puts the ball in play here. He don't strike out much. Only 14 strikeouts and 81 at-bats here for Estrada. So maybe he could turn things around again and get that average back up. But right now, with the low batting average and his on-base only 41% points higher, that's a recipe for disaster, and a guy who's a free swinger and hits early in the count. And that's how you get out early in the count, sometimes not working it and seeing what the pitchers got. So the last few games here for Estrada, April 26th, versus Oakland, 1 for 4 with a run and a rib. April 27th versus Oakland, 0 for 3. April 29th versus Washington, 0 for 4. April 30th versus Washington, 1 for 4 with 3 RBIs. And May 1st versus Washington, 1 for 4 with a run. So right now, he's not producing good numbers. He's not hitting the baseball. And he's a guy I would drop this week. If he gets going once again, obviously you revisit it and pick him up. But that's a few hitters I would look to drop here for week 4 of the fantasy baseball season.